Have you ever caught yourself eating when you're not even hungry? Maybe you've had a stressful day, or maybe you're feeling lonely and suddenly you're standing in front of the pantry or you're digging through the freezer for some ice cream. Emotional eating happens to the best of us. Believe me, I know this even as a fitness coach of 19 years. And it used to be one of my biggest struggles. And unfortunately, that would lead to losing some body fat and regaining it. And it was kind of a vicious cycle. And this is something that happened with my clients quite regularly. And so, over the course of 19 years of fitness coaching, I have come up with six very, very highly effective, proven strategies that have worked like gangbusters when it comes to helping my clients and myself overcoming emotional eating so you can finally lose weight and keep it off without feeling miserable or deprived or needing just so much willpower and discipline, because goodness knows that's not how I stay fit. That's dang sure not how my clients do as well or either. So here is the thing: emotional eating does not have to wreck your weight loss goals, okay? So I want you to stick with me, and I'm going to share six strategies that I have learned in 19 years of coaching that can help you overcome all of this finally for good. So let me know in the comments, though, if you're like me, if emotional eating has ever tripped you up or trapped you like it has for me. Go ahead and let me know in the comments. Totally okay. You're safe. We're going to talk about this. And again, I'll kind of share a little bit of some of my woes here. I've got a good amount of notes, so I'm going to try not to speak as quick as the old Micro Machine man from the 80s, but I am going to talk pretty quickly because I want you to have all of this knowledge and information, because these are practical strategies that you can use today to overcome the emotional eating so you can finally lose weight, keep it off, and still enjoy food. What a freaking concept, okay? So very first thing we're going to talk about is actually addressing some of the real problems. So what I want you to do is to imagine this, all right? You're driving down the road and your gas light comes on, all right? Gas light comes on, not necessarily a great thing, especially if you're on some back road. But instead of pulling into a gas station, you decide to actually pull into a car wash. Now, that sounds ridiculous, I'm sure, right? A car wash isn't going to fill your tank. It's the wrong solution for the wrong problem you're facing. Hopefully you see where I'm going with this. Now, emotional eating is the same way. When you're stressed, when you're lonely, or you're overwhelmed, you're tired, reaching for food is like pulling into the car wash when you really need gas. It just doesn't make sense. It feels good for a moment, but it doesn't solve that problem. What if instead you actually started to address the real problem, whether that's stress, whether it's lack of time, if it's emotional needs, if it's needing a connection, or if it's needing more sleep, with the right solution. So that's exactly what these six strategies are going to help you do. So the very first one we're going to talk about here is pattern interruption. And I'm going to go ahead and, speaking of interruption, I'm going to turn this on do not disturb so I don't get a call while I'm talking through my notes here. So pattern interruption is anything that breaks the cycle of habitual behaviors that we do without much thought. Now, you might be thinking to yourself right now, oh, I can think of several of those things where I just just kind of go through my day without giving a whole lot of thought. And dang, before I know it, I've eaten a whole bag of Funyuns. Or in my case, this was back in, I guess, it would have been 2013 or 14. I like to tell on myself because I like people to know that when you see me eating pizza or eating certain things, I enjoy food, and I'm going to show you how to do it the right way. But I want you to know that I have had my fair share of mistakes and failures and mess ups. And so there was one particular night where I was so stressed out, and I went to just grab some Cheez-Its, but I'm walking with them and I've got my arm in there and I'm eating. And next thing I know, and I don't remember how long it was, but next thing I know, and I look down and I'm kind of shaking the box and there's not much left. Now, granted, this box wasn't brand new, but it was pretty dang close. And so basically what ended up happening is in the course of maybe an hour, hour and a half, I ate like 90% of a dang near brand new Cheez-Its box. And I thought to myself, how in the world? And I was a personal trainer at the time. How does this happen? Well, this is where I began to start diving into some more of the emotional and psychological factors of why this happens, because I didn't want this to be something that my clients were struggling with over and over again like I did for years, okay? So emotional eating often happens automatically, triggered by stress or emotion, and breaking the cycle is the very first step to stopping it. So what are some examples of interruption or pattern interruption? Well, you can walk away from the pantry and make a phone call, okay? Now, again, I realize it sounds simple, but when you are stressed, you're emotional, or you're right in the crux of something that's overwhelming, you feel emotional, it's important to begin doing something that interrupts what you're doing so you don't just reach automatically like you do out of stress, like I did, where you're elbow deep in a box of Cheez-Its and you're not really giving it thought. It's not because I was craving Cheez-Its. It's not because I wanted them. It's more because I was emotional and I had this built up energy that I had to do something with. And before I knew it, I just turned to the most convenient and the most comfortable and the most familiar to me, which was going for food, and not good food, food that really was mainly processed and didn't make me feel good, high sodium and all of that. Now, again, I'm not ragging on Cheez-Its. I love them, still have them, but having a whole box when you're stressed out is not really necessarily a game plan. So another thing that you can do is go for a walk to shift your focus. Make a phone call is another really, really good one. Again, whether you're at a pantry or you're not. Another one, leave the space that you're in. Change what you're doing or disrupt the usual pattern in some form or facet so that you can stop the compulsive thought that says, I've got to eat my feelings because I just feel like I'm so overwhelmed or I'm just so emotional. And next thing you know, you're like, I don't even know why I did that. Maybe for you, it's stopping from working at your desk, and maybe you're used to, when you're stressed out, going and getting a packet of Reese's. Now, again, nothing wrong with Reese's, but if you're doing this out of stress, as opposed to because you fit this in and you wanted to eat this in your nutrition, which I'll teach you how to do, that's not going to serve your goals, okay? So number two that we can do is to create more margin in your life and in your eating, okay? Now I'm going to explain that. When we lack margin of time or margin of food choices, meaning that you're too rigid in your approach, we start to feel stressed and we feel overwhelmed. And this leads to emotional decision making, including turning to food instead of solving that problem. Now, again, if you're eating too rigidly from some rigid weight loss plan or diet or meal plan, that's more than enough to lead to deprivation, and then emotional eating comes after that. Because I don't know about you guys, but for me, when I've done the rigid diet thing where it's like, oh, I can't have carbs, I'm going to just shop on the perimeter of the store and eat like paleo style, and basically if it's not like what cavemen eat, then I'm just not going to eat it. When you do this and you're avoiding everything, you start seeing other people eat foods and you start having cravings, and you end up falling into what's called decision fatigue, because you're saying no over and over throughout the day while you're stressed or when you're busy. And then finally, when you get home and that stress gets diminished or depleted a little bit, now you're in a decision fatigue because you've already said no so many times to something. And finally, you end up caving. At least that's what's happened to me and many of my clients, okay? So without margin, it's very, very easy to reach for comfort foods or skip workouts when life feels chaotic or you feel deprived, okay? So to reduce overwhelm, number one, build breathing room into your schedule so that you're not constantly rushing. If you are constantly rushing, you're going to be more likely to skip workouts, or you're going to end up skipping your food, feeling hungry at the end of the day, which is something a lot of my clients used to say when they were entrepreneurs, is that it's like, Lance, all throughout the day, I'm so busy, I don't even have time to stop to eat. And then by the time I get home, I'm so hungry, I'm really willing to eat anything. And that's a problem, because you're thinking that you're skipping your food because you're so busy and you're productive, but in reality, you're lacking self-care. This is how children do things. It's not what we do as adults when we want to be successful in our business and in our health and fitness, our lifestyle, so we can feel better about ourselves, have more energy, a better sex drive, more confidence, all the things, okay? So build breathing room into your schedule. That's one. Number two is to recognize that less stress leads to fewer emotional eating triggers, and it makes it easier to stick with your nutrition and fitness goals. It's really simple. So a lot of times people are like, I notice that you talk about mindset and stress so often, even more so than what I hear you talking about the specifics of how to eat. Well, why do you think that is? Because the eating really does get simple whenever you understand how to structure it. And really, even if you have that structure, something that can get in your way is this stuff. When you're stressed out, it's like all logic goes out the window. And even though you know that structure, you avoid it, you skip it, you go around it, all because of the fact that you don't have margin and because of the fact that you're so stressed, and that leads to emotional decisions. Now, another one to help fix the rigidness, and listen here, If you have done or are doing some form of rigid nutrition program like MetaFast, Nutrisystem, any of these programs whatsoever, and I'm not saying that they don't have decent effects at times, but if you're the type of person that you can lose weight, but you can't keep it off because you always regain it, you don't need to do those things that have helped you to lose weight before. Because if they worked well enough, you wouldn't stop doing them to go back to normal. And here's the point. If what you're doing, you're looking forward to getting done with to go back to normal, what you're doing isn't normal. It's not safe. It's not good for you. So using the 80-20 rule, which is what we teach in our Joyfully Fit 365 program, this is where 80% of your foods or 80% of your calories, more specifically, are going to come from whole foods, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, seeds, nuts, legumes, foods like your good protein, fish and chicken. Now, again, when I say fish, chicken, beef, all this stuff, it doesn't mean boring and bland. You can use spices, you can use condiments. You don't have to avoid this stuff. And the reason I'm harping on this is because so many people, I see it in movies and shows where people are on diets. Like there was an episode of King of Queens, used to be one of my favorite shows, and Carrie goes on a diet, and which she doesn't need to be the one. Doug convinces her to do this. Please tell me you've watched the show. But point is, she's eating a salad and a couple things, and she's got like a few leaves and a few little things, like a little bit of fish. And that's the funny thing is she both went super small with her portion sizes and she made it super rigid. If you're going to go that rigid, you can have huge portion sizes. If you're going to eat a salad like a chicken salad, as long as it's not loaded with, tons of oils and dressings, you can have a giant salad with chicken. You don't need I'm just barely eating. And that was the big joke, is she has a couple forkfuls of stuff and she's like, well, that's it. Well, yeah, of course, because you've got something that's so low calorie and yet you've got a tiny little bit. You're not going to feel like you're satiated, satisfied, or even like you've solved any hunger. And B, it's so rigid that you're going to be thinking of food all the time. And this is what happens. So 80% of your food should come from whole foods like I've described, and 20% are going to come from the fun food stuff that maybe is a little bit more processed, or foods that, again, maybe it's at a fast food restaurant or a restaurant or something in a box maybe. I'm not encouraging that, but I'm saying that if you're avoiding it, you're probably going to end up doing what I've done and having elbow deep in a box of Cheez-Its or Funyuns or whatever your vice might be, okay? So this is going to help you to prevent the food FOMO, the fear of missing out, and it's going to help you to no longer go off the rails because you're starving or because you're feeling so deprived. Number 3, you got to practice better self-care, okay? Emotional eating doesn't usually stem from surface level hunger, and I'm going to go into some really cool things in just a minute, so stick around. It's often tied to unmet emotional needs like exhaustion, loneliness, anxiety, all of these things, okay? So you want to prioritize self-care to really make sure that you're in the right state to make decisions that actually align with your goals. And when you're tired and you're crazy hungry or you're exhausted, you're lonely, you're going to be less likely to be able to logically do that. So when you're tired, you're stressed, you're anxious, you're lonely, it's much harder to make wise decisions. Self-care is a must if you want to stay aligned with your long-term goals, not just react to short-term emotions. Because that's the big thing, guys. So many people end up trying to lose weight, and they do it where they see everything as a short-term, like, I'm going to do this for 90 days and then I can go back to normal and be good. If that's your mentality, you're not living like I do as a fitness coach. And let me just tell you, as a fitness coach, you want to live like I do. I have pizza, I have wine, I enjoy chocolate and Reese's and ice cream. I have cereal when I want it. I know how to eat in the right way so that I can enjoy 20% of my foods coming from the foods that you normally consider cheat meals, and they're not, as long as you know how to structure that, okay? So let me know in the comments if this is making sense or if you have any questions, and I'll get to those too. Okay, number 4, this is a big one. You've got to change your story. What do I mean by that? Well, the story that you tell yourself about who you are can either empower you or it can sabotage you, okay? What I mean is that if you see yourself as the overweight person who can't get it together, you're going to keep acting in ways that align with that story. What the mind believes to be true, we are going to act consistently and build habits that align with that belief. whatever the strongest belief is that we have about ourselves with enough emotion is going to be the winner. And if you believe that, for example, you're a C student is going to get C grades, not because, oh, I believe I'm a C student. No, it's because I believe I'm a C student. And what does a C student behave? How do they behave? They study like a C student. They do their homework like a C student, and they take their tests like a C student. And if you behave in those actions that align with the belief that you're a C student, what do you think you're going to get? C's. It's the same exact thing with your mindset, believing like, no, Lance, you don't get it. I've always been overweight. Or no, Lance, I've lost 30, 40, 50 pounds like 4 times. I can just never keep it off. I can't stick with the diet. Yeah, me neither. I can't stick with that either. Join me over here on the better side where you get to enjoy food. And this is a permanent lifestyle and not one that you've tried to convince yourself, well, I guess this is my lifestyle. I'll just deal with it. No, not at all. If you're doing the 80-20 plan, the 80-20 rule, your lifestyle is one that you can enjoy forever. Because every single day, not once a week, every day, if you want something like a Reese's or if you want something that tastes good, fit it in. You can have it. No guilt, no shame, no self-sabotage. It's wonderful. This is what my clients are doing. And if you want to, go ahead and scan through some of my pages, either on Instagram or LinkedIn or here on Facebook or YouTube, and you're going to see some of the before and afters of people that got to eat the foods that I'm describing to you and still not only lost weight, but kept it off, okay? So what I want you to do is to reframe your narrative. And what that means is that you're going to start saying, like, I'm not an overweight person. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't have excess fat, but I'm a person with habits that lead to overweight outcomes, meaning I'm not the overweight person. When you label yourself as the overweight person, or I'm always the heavy one, I'm the big one in my group, or I've always been the fat guy, or whatever. I've heard it all. That narrative is what you're believing and speaking and thinking repetitively. And then you wonder why your habits reflect that. So today I want to challenge you actually to stop saying that and to start saying, like, you know what? I am actually the fit guy or the fit girl learning to undo the habits that don't serve me. And as soon as I do this, just like, because again, I used to tutor people. If you tutor somebody and they believe that they're a C student, if I don't help you to understand, no, you're an A student just with C student habits, then you think, well, as long as I've got Lance around, then of course I can get A's. But if I help you to see that, no, you're an A student trapped in C student habits, well, anything's possible. So today I want you to know you are the fit girl or the fit guy. You just have overweight person habits, and that's all. And I'm going to help you to overcome those, okay? So the thing is that it's not about your identity, it's about your actions. But if you believe that you have a certain identity, those actions will correlate and correspond with that belief. We've got to let go of it, okay? All right, I'm going to move pretty quick. Number 5, you've got to undo your anchors to food and identify your emotions. What do I mean? Well, emotional eating is going to happen when we use food to solve problems that it's not designed to fix. Remember at the beginning when I said on your car, the gas light comes on, and instead of pulling into the gas station to fill up with gas, you pull into the car wash. Yeah, it might make your car clean, but it's not filling up the car with gas like it needs. It doesn't solve the problem. That's what we do with emotional eating. We're tired, we're sad, we're lonely, and we're like, instead of getting a hug or talking with somebody and getting some talk therapy, I just think I'll solve it with food. Now, again, I'm not making fun because this was my life. This is what I've done. But this is not what serves you, okay? So when you actually begin to identify what those emotions are, now you can solve them in a different way. So if you're lonely, eating comfort food won't create connection. Calling a friend or spending time with loved ones will. And again, so many times that's what people need is they need some other emotional problem fixed or solved from the root, or with a friend, with family, with a counselor, or again, with prayer, whatever it might be. And instead they're reaching for food, which is instant gratification. You feel better or different for a moment, but then whenever that feeling passes, now you feel guilt and shame because once again, you did something that did not align with your goals and more aligned with the old stinking thinking belief, which is, I always do this. I'm the overweight one. I'm the this one, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now, undoing food anchors requires recognizing when emotions like stress or boredom or loneliness are driving you to actually eat. This is what we call eating our feelings. Why do we call it that way? Because you have feelings that need to be resolved or need to be helped, and yet you are eating those feelings, hoping that they will go away. This is what Tony Robbins calls a state change. You're in a state that doesn't feel good, and you're hoping that a chemical or some sort of chemical reaction like food or alcohol or sex will change your state. And it will maybe for a moment, but is it the permanent state that you want, and does it solve your problems? No, not unless you solve them from the root. So using food to solve emotions, again, is like being thirsty and reaching for a bowling ball. Who does that? It doesn't meet your needs, and it only leaves you feeling more frustrated, especially when the sensation ends up passing. Now, number 6 is a really, really big one. This is probably one of my most important because I was not taught how to recognize hunger cues when I grew up. We were taught to basically clean your plate, and you don't get dessert, you don't get anything snack-wise unless you finish what you're eating. Well, and then sometimes it was okay to eat more and get seconds, and we weren't really taught how to do any of that. So I had some pretty crappy eating habits growing up. Have anybody else? Let me know in the comments. So what happens is when you understand your hunger cues, it's going to help you to recognize that whether you're eating for physical hunger or if you're eating for emotional reasons. So there are 6 hunger cues that I'm going to go through with you. It would be awesome for you to write them down, but if not, just rewind it and watch this again. But save this. It'll help you so, so much. The first one is starving, okay? Starving is where you're feeling weak, you're feeling dizzy, you're low on energy. You want to avoid getting to this point because you're more likely to make poor choices and eat way too quickly, which can strain your body, and it stops the connection between your stomach and your brain that says you're full. So when you eat too quickly, you end up, your stomach gets full, and then like 15 minutes later, your brain's like, whoa, I'm full. And then now it's already too late. You've already consumed way more calories or the wrong foods compared to what you wanted to do. All of that, all because of that feeling of starving, okay? Second hunger cue is going to be feeling very hungry. Now, feeling very hungry is where your stomach is grumbling, you're low energy, all of that. Now, you might still make unhealthy choices here, so opt for a protein and fiber-rich meal to satisfy you. So when you're very hungry, what I normally have my clients do is, very first thing is, find yourself some form of protein so that you can reduce the sensation of feeling ravenous and you can start feeling more normal. And that will reduce your chances of just eating anything to basically to get rid of that awful feeling that you've got. Number 3 is mildly hungry. This is where you could use a quick snack, okay? This is a sign of healthy eating between meals. This is a good place to be. Choose a balanced snack to keep you nourished and full longer, okay? Now, I teach that all of your meals should be, if it's a true meal, it'll be a protein and a carb. That protein might have some fats in it. The carb might have some fats. If not, you can add a little fats to it. But protein and carbs together is what's going to make a complete meal. If it's just a protein, it's not complete. And if it's just a carb, like some people do, a lot of times on TV, you'll see that, oh, just grab a banana and some oatmeal and all that for breakfast. That's a whole crap ton of carbs. What are you doing? So instead, you want to have protein because protein is going to reduce the likelihood of the insulin spike from happening, okay? So it's just, I'll move on from there, but it's going to help you quite a bit. Let's see. Number 4, satisfied. This is neither hungry nor full. So you've eaten mindfully and you've given your body just enough. So stop here to avoid feeling sluggish and unproductive. That's a good one. Number 5, feeling stuffed. This is where you ate a little bit too much, all right? This can happen if you waited until you were starving or you were very hungry. So just pay attention to your body signals to know when exactly to stop so you don't end up overdoing it to that feeling of feeling stuffed. And then number 6 is overstuffed, all right? This is where people are like, oh my gosh, this is like after a Thanksgiving dinner, after Christmas dinner, etc. You're uncomfortable, maybe you're sweaty. If you're Joey from Friends, you've got your meat, the meat pants on, so that you've got room, which are, Phoebe's pregnancy pants, showing my age here. And the thing is that in this here, maybe you're even feeling crampy, you're feeling low energy, like you need to take a nap. If this happens regularly outside of special occasions, I'm not going to rip on you if you do this once or twice a year. I don't recommend it if you can help it, but if, outside of once or twice a year, there might be an underlying emotional cause to address here, meaning that we've got a deeper root issue, maybe food addiction, maybe there's still something not quite being solved, okay? So hopefully this helps you guys. If you apply it, I promise it will help you, but hopefully this is resonating and making sense. So if this is resonating with you and you're ready to finally break the cycle of emotional eating and losing weight to only regain it later, go ahead and drop me a comment and let me know which of these strategies feels like it's your biggest struggle, or which area do you feel like maybe like me, where, when you're stressed, you tend to overeat and you want to eat processed foods like I tend to do. Maybe that's you, or maybe you're, like some of my other clients where you don't have enough margin and you're just like, it's work. And then as soon as you're done with work, you're taking kids to all 9 soccer games and wrestling. And by the time you get home, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what my name is, but I better eat some food. And then finally you're like, just eat it all. Whatever that is, go ahead and let me know what it might be for you. And if you want even more tools to help with long-term weight loss, if you're 35 and over and making better food choices, I've actually got something for you. It's my 7 food list cheat sheets, and you're definitely going to want to click the link below. And there's some of the same guides that I use with my private clients. I actually created these for my clients. And it's going to have tips on balancing your meals, food lists for protein, low glycemic index carbs. Be sure to watch my video on that, by the way. And even healthy fats, or even how to make smarter choices even when you're going to restaurants. I don't have my clients avoid restaurants. I teach them how to eat there using these guides and lists. So you're going to want that. So you can drop drop the phrase food guide in the comments, and I'll send it to you for free, or you can just click the link. Either one is totally cool. But here's what I want to leave you with. I want you to remember that emotional eating does not mean that you have failed. It doesn't mean that you're the fat one, you're the overweight one, you're the whatever negative name you've called yourself. Get rid of that. Understand that the only reason you believe that you are those things is because you've not been shown the right habits that feel good to you in your life, so you can eat the foods that you enjoy and still get the results that you want to without sabotaging. So what this means, though, is if you're struggling with emotional eating, it just means that there's an opportunity to find a better solution. And you can start breaking those patterns by caring for yourself and applying these 6 tips that I've given you, including the 6th one, which is the 6 hunger cues, okay? So if you want help where you're like, hey, Lance, this sounds great, and it sounds like what you're doing is very different from anything I've ever done. I am tired of losing weight only to regain it. I'm tired of losing weight whenever I'm like ready to eat my arm, or I'm just like fantasizing about being able to just pull through a Taco Bell, or going to a Red Lobster and eating something that I want. I don't know, fill it in. Or maybe it's like Texas Roadhouse and you want some buns, or the awesome rolls that they've got there. This is how I teach my clients. And if you want to learn a little bit more about that, you can either comment below or you can shoot me a direct message, and we'll chat a little bit about if and how I can help you so that you can do like what I've done and like my clients have done, where you finally get out of that roller coaster where you're losing weight and gaining weight and losing it, all because of the wrong habits. So what I want you to know is that you can start breaking these patterns by using this. But if you need that help, if you want extra help, like a good amount of people enjoy having, because they learn the system and they realize, wait, this is so much easier than what I thought, I'd love to chat with you. We can schedule a call. We can chat via DM, whatever you want. I don't do the sales pressure stuff. I like to talk to people and be very, very honest if I can help you or if I cannot. And if I can, I'd love to chat with you a little bit about what it might look like to go through our Joyfully Fit 365 program. Just so you know, there are 3 different tiers of that, so that way it fits your budget, your margin of life, and your goals. So you don't have to worry if you're thinking like, oh, I wonder how much that is and all that. I've got programs for you. Don't worry. Now, what I want to know is, as I close this up, is what is one step that you can take today to address emotional eating? I want you to let me know in the comments. If you want to use one of these, go ahead and do it. But I want you to commit to just one that you're going to start with, so you can start overcoming this emotional eating for good. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really, really hope that this has helped you. I really hope that you'll be able to apply this, because it will change your life forever. Thank you guys so much. I will catch you guys on